The mall incident. He was a warm Saturday afternoon in the heart suburban Eastbrook. The town's shopping mall, sprawling glass and steel structure nestled between neat rows of middle-class neighborhoods, was humming with weekend energy. Children squealed by the food court, couples strolled hand in hand past shop windows, and music drifted lazily from overhead speakers as shoppers meandered through brightly lit aisles. The mall, known officially as Eastbrook Galleria, had become something of a local gathering place. On weekends, it transformed into a small town's cultural hub, a place where teenagers congregated, parents ran errands, and elderly couples sipped lattes in peace. Every corner was alive with chatter, movement, and the occasional scent of warm pretzels or freshly brewed coffee wafting from the kiosks. Among the crowd moved Jaden Carter, a 16-year-old black teen whose gentle demeanor set him apart from the usual noise of youth. Dressed in a clean, simple hoodie and jeans, he carried himself with quiet confidence and a sense of purpose. He wasn't there to hang out or loiter like many teens his age. Jaden had a mission to buy a birthday gift for his mother. He'd been saving up for weeks, tutoring two younger kids in his apartment building after school, raking leaves for neighbors and delivering groceries for tips. Every dollar had added up, and now, tucked safely inside his wallet, was $53 and some coins, just enough to afford the simple silver necklace he'd seen on display at a little boutique called Luna and Oak. As he entered the shop, Jaden took a moment to admire the display, a small, delicate chain with a tree-shaped pendant, symbolic, quiet, and elegant. Just like his mom, she had raised him alone, through every hard season, never complaining. If anyone deserved something beautiful, it was her. He picked it up gently, smiling to himself. From the corner of the shop, Mr. Dalton, a white security guard in his late 40s with a buzz cut and a permanent scowl, narrowed his eyes. He'd been watching Jaden from the moment he walked in. To him, Jaden wasn't just another customer. He was a profile, hoodie, alone, black, young. All the boxes ticked in Mr. Dalton's internal alarm system, shaped more by prejudice than protocol. Jaden didn't notice him at first. He was focused, checking the price tag, counting his money. He walked to the counter and politely asked the young cashier, a girl no older than 20, if she could show him a matching bracelet. As she stepped away to check the inventory drawer, Jaden leaned forward, hands resting on the glass counter. That's when Mr. Dalton made his move. He approached swiftly, his boots clicking sharply on the polished tile. His hand hovered near his utility belt, though there was no reason for it, no weapon, no threat. Just a teenager looking for a gift. "Hey," Dalton barked. "What do you think you're doing?" Jaden blinked, startled, and turned to face him. "Sorry," he replied, his voice calm but confused. "I saw you. Don't play dumb," Dalton said, jabbing a finger toward Jaden's chest. "What did you just put in your pocket?" Jaden looked down, baffled. His hands were still on the glass counter, empty. He hadn't even touched his pockets. "I didn't put anything in my pocket," he said politely, trying not to sound defensive. "I was just looking at the necklace." Dalton didn't budge. "Don't lie to me. Empty your pockets, now." The cashier looked up from behind the counter, startled by the sudden scene. A few customers nearby turned their heads. The mall's ambient noise began to hush as a ripple of attention spread. Jaden exhaled slowly, his hands still open. "I didn't steal anything. You can check the cameras." Dalton smirked coldly. "We don't need the cameras. I saw you." Jaden didn't move. His instincts told him to stay calm, to be careful. He knew how this game worked, how quickly things could spiral. He had read the stories, seen the videos online. Black boys like him were guilty until proven innocent. But still, he was taught to always show respect, even when none was shown to him. "I'm not going to empty my pockets in front of everyone," he said quietly. "I didn't do anything wrong." Dalton stepped closer, his voice rising. "You think you're better than me? I told you to empty your pockets, or I'll have you detained." By now a small crowd had started to form. A couple with a stroller stood frozen, watching. A group of teens nearby pulled out their phones, sensing something worth filming. Jaden could feel the weight of all their eyes, judging, assuming, waiting for something to happen. The cashier finally spoke up, her voice unsure. "Sir, I don't think he took anything. I was watching. He was just asking about." Dalton shot her a glare that silenced her mid-sentence. Jaden, still rooted to the spot, could feel heat rising in his chest. Not from guilt, but from humiliation. He'd done nothing wrong. He had saved up for weeks. He had walked in like every other customer. But now, he was being treated like a criminal, simply because of how he looked. He spoke again, more firmly this time. "I have money. I came here to buy a gift. You can ask her. You can check the footage." Dalton's jaw clenched. "Let me make this easy for you. You either cooperate now, or I'll call mall police and have you escorted out in cuffs." More murmurs from the crowd. A few gasps. Someone whispered, "This is messed up." Another phone went up, recording. Jaden's heart was pounding now, not from fear, but from the storm of injustice. He could feel the stares press against his skin like 1,000 needles. He glanced at the necklace still sitting on the glass. His mom's gift, so close, yet slipping further away with every passing second. "I didn't steal anything," he repeated, looking directly at Dalton. But Dalton wasn't looking for truth. He was looking for power. The moment had become less about suspicion, and more about domination. A white man asserting his control over a young black boy in front of an audience. It wasn't about theft. It was about humiliation. He reached for Jaden's arm, as if to restrain him. "Don't touch me," Jaden said, stepping back. His voice wasn't loud, but it was clear. The tension peaked. Security radios crackled somewhere in the distance. Shoppers whispered. Phones recorded. And then, in that heavy silence, a voice rang out, authoritative and steady. "Is there a problem here?" Everyone turned toward the entrance of the shop. Jaden looked up, confused. Mr. Dalton froze, and though no one recognized the man at first, tall, sharply dressed, eyes cold as ice, Jaden was about to find out that this man wasn't just anyone, and neither was Jaden. "Great. Let's now expand asterisk, part 2, asterisk. The humiliation, asterisk, 2,000 words asterisk. Picking up directly from where we left off in part 1, the humiliation. Jaden stepped back, his voice steady but sharp. "Don't touch me." The energy in the store shifted instantly. Mr. Dalton froze, his hand still hovering mid-air, fingers curled in the air like claws that hadn't quite closed. For a moment time stretched, seconds ticking by like drops of thick syrup. The crowd watching outside the shop had grown larger now, some with phones up, others with hands on hips, whispering to one another. The air felt hot, intense, like the pressure right before a storm cracks open the sky. Dalton's eyes narrowed. "You're resisting now." Jaden's voice remained calm. "I'm not resisting anything. I just told you, I didn't steal anything. I'm not going to let you grab me like I'm some kind of criminal." Dalton's face flushed red. Whether it was embarrassment from being recorded or rage from being defied, even Jaden couldn't tell. But it was clear that the situation had spun out of control. Not because Jaden did anything wrong, but because Dalton was the kind of man who didn't like to be questioned, especially not by someone he had already judged in his head. He turned to the cashier, who was visibly shaken. "Call mall security, now. He's refusing to cooperate." "But she began, clearly hesitant. "Now," Dalton snapped. The girl flinched and picked up the phone, her hand trembling. Jaden swallowed hard, his hands still at his sides. He could feel his pulse behind his eyes. The temptation to shout, to scream, to curse. It rose in him like a wildfire. But he knew that giving in to that urge would only confirm what Dalton was hoping for. So he stood still, silent, while his dignity was being stripped in front of dozens of strangers. A middle-aged black woman stepped forward from the crowd outside the shop, her voice cutting through the awkward silence. "This is ridiculous. He's a kid. He hasn't even left the store. Y'all profiling him." Dalton turned to her. "Ma'am, this is none of your business." She didn't back down. "It is my business, when a child is being publicly harassed for doing nothing wrong." Dalton looked as if he might say more, but just then 2 uniformed mall security officers arrived, 1 man and 1 woman. They glanced at Dalton, then at Jaden, and then at the growing crowd of onlookers. Phones were still recording. It was no longer just a store incident. It had become a public spectacle. "What's going on here?" the female officer asked. Dalton spoke first, stepping forward with an air of authority. "Caught him shoplifting. He refuses to comply. He's hiding something." The officers turned to Jaden, who stood with his arms still outstretched and his palms open. "I didn't steal anything," he said again, this time to them. "Check the cameras. Ask the cashier. I was asking about a necklace. I haven't even left the store." The male officer looked at the cashier, who stood behind the counter frozen, still clutching the store's phone. She glanced nervously at Dalton, then at Jaden. "Is that true?" the officer asked her. She nodded. "I didn't see him take anything. He was asking about a bracelet to match a necklace he picked out. I stepped away for a second. That's it." Jaden let out a slow breath. For a moment, it felt like the truth might finally begin to cut through the fog of accusation. But Dalton wouldn't let go. You can't trust what she saw. Kids like him are quick, slip things in pockets without you noticing. Jaden turned his head sharply. "Kids like me." Dalton didn't answer. The female officer stepped between them. "Okay, let's all calm down." She turned to Jaden. "Would you mind just emptying your pockets, just to clear this up quickly?" Jaden stared at her. His mind swirled. That phrase, just to clear this up echoed in his ears like a taunt. As if it was that simple. As if the burden of proof belonged to him. As if his innocence wasn't enough unless he performed it like a circus trick for their comfort. He looked around. The crowd, the phones, the faces, and then at the necklace still sitting under the glass counter. His mom's gift. The one thing that had brought him here. With slow, deliberate movements, Jaden reached into his pockets. He pulled out his phone, his wallet, a crumpled bus transfer, and a few coins. He laid them all on the glass counter one by one. Nothing else. The officers examined the items. The male officer cleared his throat awkwardly. "Well, that seems to be everything." Jaden looked at Dalton, satisfied. Dalton didn't respond. His jaw tightened, but he had no retort, no proof, just his pride and prejudice, which had both just been put on full display and found empty. "You can go," the female officer said, stepping back. Jaden stared at Dalton for a long moment, not with hate, but with something deeper, disappointment, and a kind of quiet defiance that no words could fully carry. Then he picked up his belongings and slowly returned them to his pockets. He looked at the necklace once more, the reason he came, but now it felt poisoned, tainted by the ugliness that had unfolded. He didn't want it anymore, not from this store, not from this place. Without a word he turned and walked out. As he passed through the crowd, people stepped aside. Some gave him sympathetic looks, others nodded in quiet respect. A few called out things like, "You handled that well, man." But Jaden didn't reply. He didn't have the energy to play gracious in the aftermath of injustice. His legs felt heavy as he walked through the mall's bright corridors. The noise returned, laughter, music, footsteps, but everything sounded distant, muffled, like it was coming through a fog. By the time he reached the exit, Jaden felt like he'd walked a mile. He stepped out into the sunlight, letting the warmth of the day hit his face, but it didn't soothe him. His jaw was tight. His eyes stung. He didn't cry, not yet, but the pressure built in his chest like water behind a dam.
As he reached the bus stop, he sat down and finally let his backpack drop beside him. A child next to him blew bubbles into the air, giggling. Jaden watched them float, fragile and free, disappearing into the sky. He thought about his mom, about how she'd taught him to always be respectful, to hold his head high, to prove people wrong not by shouting, but by being better. He had done all of that, and still, it hadn't mattered. He had been profiled, accused, humiliated, all in public. And for what? For being a black teen with money in his pocket. A lump formed in his throat. He clenched his fists and forced himself to breathe slowly. He had to be strong. He didn't know it yet, but this moment, this incident, would be the spark of something bigger. It would wake sleeping giants. It would reveal truths buried beneath years of silence. And it would introduce the world to the man Jaden had never met, the man who was about to change everything. But for now, Jaden sat in silence, waiting, wounded, but not broken. And just as his bus pulled around the corner, his phone buzzed with a message from his mother. "This sis, hey sweetheart, everything okay? You've been gone a while." He stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed back, "This sis, can we talk when I get home? ****. Then he hit send, boarded the bus, and sat by the window. As the mall disappeared behind him, the necklace was gone, but something else had been found in its place. A fire, absolutely. Here is part 4, of your story, continuing seamlessly, and expanding to approximately, 2,000 words This part focuses on the media, attention, personal impact, and a turning point in Jaden's life. Part 4 echoes across the city. By the next morning, the video had gone viral. Jaden's face, calm, composed, and quietly dignified under pressure, had been seen by millions. News stations were running the story on their morning programs. Headlines flooded social media. Black teen wrongfully accused of shoplifting. Father's calm but powerful response sparks national outrage. Security guard profiles teen, has no clue. His dad is a civil rights attorney. 16-year-old targeted while shopping for mom's gift. Community rallies for justice. Jaden sat at the breakfast table, bowl of cereal in front of him going soggy, untouched. His mother Carmen paced in the kitchen, phone constantly buzzing. She had already spoken to 3 reporters that morning, and 2 local activists had reached out, offering support. Michael sat across from Jaden, sipping coffee, his laptop open as he coordinated statements with media outlets and community leaders. "You okay?" Michael asked, voice soft now, fatherly. Jaden hesitated. "I don't know." Michael closed the laptop and leaned in. "Talk to me." Jaden looked at him. "Why does it take me being your son for people to care? What about every other kid who goes through this and no one listens?" Michael nodded slowly. "That's the right question. And it's exactly why we're not letting this disappear. Not just because it happened to you, but because it keeps happening to kids who don't have someone to stand up for them." Carmen walked over and sat beside Jaden, placing a gentle hand on his back. "Baby, I'm proud of you. You kept your composure in a situation that would have broken most adults. But now, it's time to speak. People are listening." Jaden looked down at his hands. "But what if I mess it up?" Michael smiled. "Then you speak from the heart. That's what makes the difference." Later that day, Jaden found himself in front of a small press gathering in the community center. Cameras rolling, microphones lined up, lights glaring. He took a deep breath. His father stood just behind him, his mother to the side, and local leaders surrounded him in support. "I never thought I'd be standing here," Jaden began, voice a little shaky at first, "because I never thought buying a birthday gift for my mom would turn into something like this." He paused, eyes finding his mother in the crowd. "I was followed, accused and humiliated, not because I did anything wrong, but because of how I looked, because someone saw my skin color and decided I was suspicious." The room was quiet, hanging on every word. "I didn't raise my voice. I didn't resist. I emptied my pockets. even though I shouldn't have had to. I did everything we're told to do to stay safe, but it wasn't enough. Jaden looked into the cameras now, his voice growing stronger. And I know I'm not the first. I know there are so many others who didn't get a chance to speak up. Kids who were treated like criminals before they ever got a chance to prove they're human. He took a deep breath. So I'm speaking for them too. The room broke into applause. Not loud and chaotic, but steady, strong, filled with respect. By evening, Jaden's speech had become a trending video in its own right. Celebrities reposted it. Activists called him an example of quiet courage. Invitations rolled in for talk shows, panels, and youth summits. But for Jaden, the most surprising moment came from school. The next morning, he walked into the hallway, expecting whispers, maybe stares. And there were stares, but they weren't mocking. They were filled with admiration, curiosity, and for some even guilt. His best friend Malik ran up to him. Dude, you're literally famous. Jaden gave a shy smile. Not sure I want to be. No, I mean like, in a asterisk way. Like people are actually thinking. Teachers are talking about it in class. My mom cried watching your video. Jaden nodded. It's a lot. Then a voice he didn't expect. Hey Jaden. It was Tyler, one of the white kids in his history class. Usually kept to his own crowd. Today he looked awkward. I just wanted to say, what happened to you was messed up. And you handled it like a boss. I never really thought about that stuff before. I'm sorry. Jaden raised an eyebrow. Sorry for what? Tyler hesitated. For not noticing. For not saying anything. I guess for being quiet. Jaden didn't offer forgiveness or scorn. He just nodded. Thanks. The encounter left Jaden thoughtful. This wasn't just about one guard or one incident. This was a ripple, and people were waking up. Meanwhile, the pressure mounted on the mall management. After Michael Carter formally filed a discrimination claim, more allegations surfaced. Former employees and shoppers came forward with their own stories. Profiling, harassment, unfair detainments. The mall's corporate office released a statement. Accuses, we are deeply concerned by the recent incident involving a minor at our property. The behavior demonstrated by the security guard does not reflect our values. Mr. Dalton has been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Jaden read the statement on his phone. Pending investigation, he repeated, unimpressed. Michael shook his head. Typical damage control. But we're not done. We're going to push for real accountability, not just a suspension, but new training, new policies, and community oversight. Jaden looked up at him. You think they'll really change? Michael smiled. They won't have a choice. Days later, Jaden was invited to speak at a local youth justice forum. It was held in a packed auditorium. Students, teachers, parents, even city officials in attendance. Jaden stood on stage again. This time, his nerves had been replaced by something new. Resolve. He told his story again. Not for sympathy, but for awareness. When I was accused of something I didn't do, I realized how fast people are to assume the worst about someone who looks like me. And that fear, that judgment, it's not just in one person. It's in a system, and it's going to take all of us to fix it. He looked out at the rows of young faces. You don't have to be famous, or a lawyer's kid, or someone on TV. You just have to care. Speak up when something's wrong. Stand with someone when they're treated unfairly. Because silence is how this stuff keeps happening. After the forum, a teacher approached Jaden with tears in her eyes. You've done something here, she said. Not just for yourself, for all of them. Jaden thanked her, and for the first time since the mall incident, he felt something shift inside him. Not pain, not anger, purpose. But Jaden's journey didn't stop with local forums. A national civil rights organization reached out, inviting him to attend a summer leadership program for youth activists. Michael and Carmen were proud, but cautious. It's a big stage, Carmen said, concerned. Just promise you'll still be a kid sometimes too. Just promise you'll still be a kid sometimes too. Jaden smiled. I promise. And yet deep down, he knew his childhood had shifted. That day at the mall, being accused, humiliated, and then seen, had opened something in him. A fire. In the final days of summer, just before his program began, Jaden returned to the mall. Not Familiar faces, cameras, security guards, now retrained under a new protocol. He took the microphone. A few months ago, I was just a kid trying to buy my mom a birthday gift. I never expected to become a headline. I never expected to become a headline. But maybe this was supposed to happen. Not just for me, but for change. He paused, then added, this place didn't feel safe for me that day. But if today's changes make it safer for the next kid who walks in here, then something good came out of all this. The applause was thunderous. Absolutely. Here's ***, part 5, ***, of your story, adding another 2,000 words, and continuing the emotional and social arc. In this part, Jaden's influence grows, deeper tensions are revealed. In this part, Jaden's influence grows, deeper tensions are revealed, and the story pushes toward a larger transformation. The fire beneath the calm ***. The sun was setting behind the city skyline as Jaden stepped off the stage, the echoes of applause still humming in his ears. A few reporters tried to catch him on the way out, but Michael gently ushered them awake. A few reporters tried to catch him on the way out, but Michael gently ushered them away, giving his son space to breathe. You were incredible up there, Carmen said, wrapping her arms around Jaden. Jaden didn't reply right away. He looked down at his hands, the same hands he had clenched in the mold that day, the same ones that had fumbled nervously through that speech, the same ones that now trembled slightly, nervously through that speech, the same ones that now trembled slightly, not from fear, but from something else, intensity, focus, purpose.
Everything feels different now, he finally said. Michael nodded.
That's because you're different now.
The next day, Jaden was invited to a community roundtable hosted by the mayor's office. A panel of students, educators, parents, and law enforcement had been formed to discuss race, policing, and bias in public spaces. Jaden wasn't just a speaker anymore, he was a symbol of dignity under fire, of the new generation pushing for change. The meeting began tense. Officers sat stiffly in uniform, expressions unreadable. Community leaders leaned forward, passionate and weary. The moderator, a calm, silver-haired woman, opened the floor. Jaden listened to people speak about decades of mistrust, trauma, and systemic neglect. A mother spoke about her 12-year-old son who was frisked on his way home from school for looking suspicious. A retired teacher talked about how black students were punished more harshly than their white peers. Then it was Jaden's turn. He stood, looked around the circle, and took a breath. When I walked into that mall, I wasn't thinking about race. I was thinking about my mom's birthday, he began. But race thought about me. The room stilled. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't yell. I didn't run. But I was still treated like a criminal because someone decided I looked like one. He turned to the officers. I'm not saying all cops or guards are bad. I'm saying the system is sick. And when you're black, you don't get the benefit of the doubt. You get suspicion. You get fear. You get handcuffed while buying a candle for your mom. One of the officers, a younger man named Officer Bennett, spoke up. I hear you, Jaden. But do you really think profiling is that widespread? I mean, it was one guard. Jaden didn't flinch. It's never just one guard. It's the same story in different places. That's why it keeps happening. He paused, then added, and the worst part, we're taught to stay calm so we don't get killed. And even we're treated like we did something wrong. A heavy silence filled the room. That night, Jaden sat in his room scrolling through messages, hundreds of them. Some were messages of support. Some were from kids across the country, thanking him, sharing their own stories, telling him he gave them hope. But then there were the others. You're just playing the race card. Bet you did steal something and got caught. Your dad's a lawyer. That's the only reason this blew up. Jaden stared at the screen, jaw tight. He threw his phone onto the bed. Michael walked in, carrying tea, still reading the comments. Jaden nodded. Some of them are disgusting. Michael sat beside him. You're learning the cost of being seen. Jaden looked confused. When you speak truth, people listen, but it also brings out the people who can't handle it. Don't let their fear become your burden. But why do they hate me? Jaden asked, voice cracking a little. I didn't even do anything. Michael sighed. Because you exist in a world where some people are taught to fear black confidence. Your strength threatens their silence. Your poise exposes their bias. But you don't owe them comfort. Jaden nodded slowly. I just want it to matter. I want it to change something. Michael smiled. It already is. The mall eventually issued a formal apology. Mr. Dalton, the security guard, had been fired. But even then, Jaden didn't feel like celebrating. Because it wasn't about one man losing his job. It was about something deeper. Justice wasn't punishment, it was prevention. And Jaden wasn't done. With Michael's help, he began working on a local youth-led initiative called Project Horizon, aimed at training businesses in anti-bias practices, hiring more diverse staff, and creating youth advocate programs in schools. What started as a reaction had now become a movement. Jaden spent afternoons attending meetings, weekends hosting workshops, and evenings writing. His first article, When Shopping While Black Turns into a Crime Scene, was published in a national youth magazine. His second, poem, I Was Accused, Because I Fit the Fear, sparked dialogue in schools across the country. Meanwhile, Jaden had changed too, not just in the public eye, but privately. He walked differently, spoke more deliberately. He still laughed with his friends and played video games, but there was a gravity to him now, a sense of purpose that set him apart. But with it came pressure. One night, after a full day of interviews and meetings, Jaden broke down. I don't want to be perfect all the time, he said, wiping tears from his face. I'm 16. What if I mess up and everyone turns on me? Carmen sat beside him, hugging him tight. Then you mess up, you fall, and you get back up. You're not a symbol, baby, you're a human being. And it's okay to be tired. Jaden clung to her. Michael knelt in front of them. Your voice is powerful, but don't let the world take your soul in exchange for your strength. Protect your peace, too. Weeks later, Jaden received an invitation to speak at the National Youth Equity Conference. He would share a panel with young leaders from around the country. Some had survived police brutality, others had organized protests. Jaden felt honored, but also humbled. Before leaving, he visited the mall one last time. He walked through the doors, not as a suspect, but as someone reclaiming space. The store manager spotted him and walked over nervously. Jaden, I just wanted to say again, I'm so sorry. Jaden nodded. I appreciate it. But I'm not here for an apology. He handed her a folder. What's this? It's a proposal. Project Horizon, training programs, hiring goals, youth advisory board. It's time for change, not just damage control. The manager flipped through the pages, stunned. Jaden added, you can be part of the solution, or stay part of the problem. Then he turned and walked away, shoulders straight, voice unshaken. At the conference, Jaden stepped onto a stage unlike any he had seen before. Thousands of young people in the crowd, cheering, raising fists, holding signs. He didn't give a speech that night. He gave a message. I'm not special, he told them. I was just someone who refused to stay silent. He paused. And you can be that someone too. As the crowd erupted, Jaden looked out into the sea of faces, every color, every background, and for the first time since the incident, he felt something like joy. Not because he was famous, but because he had found his fire and passed the spark to others. Absolutely. Here's part 6 of your story, continuing from part 5 and adding another 2,000 words. In this part, Jaden takes his movement to the national stage, encounters backlash and emotional pressure, and faces a personal dilemma that forces him to reflect deeply on what he's fighting for. The weight of a voice The lights were bright, the crowd massive. Jaden stood backstage at the National Youth Equity Conference, watching the opening performance, a group of dancers blending hip-hop and spoken word to tell a story of pain, protest, and pride. The energy was electric. The moment felt bigger than anything he had imagined. He looked down at the speech in his hand, pages he had rewritten at least 5 times. Michael stood beside him, calm, grounded. You don't have to prove anything to anyone, son. Jaden nodded. not looking away from the stage. I know, but I want to say this right. Michael placed a hand on his shoulder. Say it how you need to say it. When Jaden finally walked onto the stage, the crowd erupted. Cameras flashed. A standing ovation greeted him before he even opened his mouth. He stood silently for a few seconds, letting the noise die down. I didn't ask to be here, he began. I didn't wake up one day and decide to become a voice for justice. It happened because someone decided I looked like a thief. Because someone couldn't see past my skin. He paused. But now that I'm here, I'm not going anywhere. The speech cut deeper than any before. He spoke of shame, of dignity, of fear that grows into fire, of being taught to be calm when the world wants to crush you, and of the danger of being forced into perfection just to be considered human. I'm not your hero, he finished. I'm just a kid who wanted to buy a candle for his mom. The applause was thunderous, not because it was polished, but because it was raw, vulnerable, unfiltered. Jaden left the stage, drained but uplifted. Fellow speakers came to shake his hand. Organizers offered him opportunities, internships, fellowships. But then came the reporters. So Jaden, do you think your story was blown out of proportion because of your father's status? Some people say you're profiting from victimhood. How do you respond? You talk about change, but isn't this just a trend? Jaden stared at them, stunned. How quickly admiration turned into interrogation. Michael stepped in. No comment. He guided Jaden away before things escalated. That night in their hotel room, Jaden stared at the ceiling. I hate this, he whispered. Michael looked over from the armchair. Hate what? How they look at me. Like I'm some kind of brand. Like I'm supposed to represent something 24/7. Michael nodded. That's the trap of visibility. You become an image before you're allowed to be a person. Jaden sat up. I don't want to lose myself in this. You won't, Michael said. Because you know the difference between performance and truth. And you're not doing this to be liked. You're doing it to make things better. Jaden smiled slightly. But I still wish I could just go back. Before all of this. Michael stood and sat beside him. You can't go back. But you can decide how you move forward. Back in his hometown, things had changed, but not all for the better. Jaden had become somewhat of a public figure, especially at school. Teachers looked at him with admiration. Classmates treated him differently, some with respect, others with jealousy or suspicion. He heard the whispers. He's only famous because he cried racism. He thinks he's better than us now. Even Carmen noticed the shift. Your friends don't come around like they used to, she said one night. Jaden shrugged. I guess they don't know how to talk to me anymore. Or maybe they're waiting for you to talk to them. Jaden thought about that. Maybe in fighting the system, he'd started building walls in his own life. Maybe in becoming a voice for others, he'd forgotten how to just be Jaden. He decided to reconnect. He invited his friends for a chill night. No speeches, no politics, just pizza and games. At first it was awkward. Jokes were too careful, silences too long. But then someone brought up that ridiculous incident during gym class, where Jaden tripped and took down 2 basketball hoops, like dominoes, and suddenly the room exploded with laughter. That night Jaden felt like a kid again. He realized he didn't have to choose between being a leader and being human. He could be both. But not everyone had moved on. One afternoon while walking through the mall, this time with friends, Jaden was approached by a familiar face, Mr. Dalton, his former accuser, no longer in uniform, just a man in plain clothes, looking older, smaller. Jaden's friends stopped. One of them whispered, "That's him." Dalton approached cautiously. "Jaden, I wanted to say something." Jaden stared at him. "I lost a lot after that day," Dalton said. "My job, my reputation. People look at me like I am the monster." "You made yourself look like that," Jaden replied coldly. Dalton swallowed hard. "I know, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I honestly didn't know who your father was. If I had known, I wouldn't have." Jaden stepped closer. "So if my dad wasn't someone powerful, you'd have gone through with it. You'd have let me get dragged off and disappear. Dalton said nothing. That's not an apology, Jaden said. That's fear. Dalton looked down. I guess you're right. Jaden's friend stood behind him silently. There was no violence, no yelling, just one teen looking into the eyes of the man who had tried to break him, and choosing not to break back. Later Jaden wrote about it. In a new piece titled "Doted the Apology I Didn't Need," he explored the idea of false remorse, conditional regret, and how society often only listens when status gets involved. The piece went viral, again, but more importantly, it sparked discussions across campuses, workplaces, and churches. Eventually Jaden was invited to Washington, D.C., to speak at a policy roundtable on racial profiling and youth rights. Politicians, educators, legal experts, all seated at the table, and Jaden once again, the youngest in the room. He spoke not as a victim, but as a visionary, not about punishment, but about possibility. We don't want revenge, he said. We want reform. We want training for security. We want protocols, not prejudices. And we want to walk into a store without being treated like suspects. One senator leaned in. What would you say to people who think you're too young to understand complex policy? Jaden smiled. I didn't have to understand policy to be handcuffed for shopping. I just had to exist. The room was silent again. Then applause. Jaden's journey wasn't over. There would still be backlash, still be pain, still be moments where the world tried to reduce him to a hashtag or headline. But he had found something deeper now. Not just a voice, not just a platform, but a purpose that couldn't be taken, because he chose it himself. He was no longer just the boy from the mall. He was the fire they tried to snuff out, and failed. Absolutely. Here's part 7, of your story, continuing from part 6, with approximately 2,000 words. In this part, Jaden continues his rise as a voice for justice, faces a deeply personal crisis that shakes his confidence, and learns the hardest lesson yet, that change comes at a cost, and it's not always fair. The cost of the flame. Jaden's words echoed in the halls of power. Sighs, we don't want revenge. We want recognition, respect. We want to stop having to prove that we belong. The room had been silent, moved not just by the speech itself, but by the strength of the young man who delivered it. Cameras caught every word, every steady breath. Within hours, his quote trended on social media. Hashtags lit up, interviews rolled in. He had become, officially, a face of the movement. But behind the applause, behind the media hype and praise, life was growing heavier. Fame wasn't kind, not really. It had expectations, and worse, it had enemies. The threat it began with comments online. You're a puppet for your dad. He's just race baiting for clout. Another entitled brat pretending to be oppressed. Jaden had seen this before. Trolls were part of the game. But this time, it went further. He received an email with no subject line. Just 2 words, size, stay silent. Attached, a photo of his school, with a red circle around his locker. Jaden froze when he saw it. He didn't tell anyone for a few hours. Not Carmen, not Michael. But eventually he couldn't keep it inside. When Michael saw the photo, his calm expression disappeared. He was silent for a moment. Then he reached for his phone and called someone from his old security team. Jaden's school installed extra cameras. The police were notified, but nothing came of it. The email couldn't be traced. No fingerprints, no leads. Jaden tried to act like it hadn't shaken him, but it had. He walked differently, quieter, more aware. He didn't feel invincible anymore. At night, he'd stare at his bedroom door, wondering if it was locked, truly locked. The weight of what he had become, a symbol, a spark, was beginning to burn. The fallout 2 weeks later, at a school town hall on student rights, Jaden was scheduled to speak. It was supposed to be a safe space, until one of the parents in the audience, a white man in a business suit, stood up and shouted, When will this end? You're turning our kids into victims, into radicals. The room gasped. Jaden stood still, fists clenched behind his back. The man went on. This boy, this child, is being used to make the rest of us feel guilty for things we never did. The principal intervened. Security escorted the man out. But the damage was done. Later that evening, conservative blogs ran headlines. Jaden's inbox flooded with both support and hate. Some called him brave. Others called him dangerous. He couldn't sleep, couldn't eat properly. Even his mom noticed. You don't smile like you used to, baby, she said, cupping his face. Jaden looked away. I don't feel like smiling. The crack in the mirror. One night, Jaden finally broke down. He stood in the kitchen with Michael, the house dark, except for the fridge light. He was wearing a hoodie, arms crossed, face pale. I don't know if I want this anymore, he said. Michael leaned against the counter. Want what? This life. The speeches, the pressure, the threats, the spotlight. I just wanted to buy a gift for my mom. That's all I wanted. Michael walked over and handed him a glass of water. You've carried a torch for a long time, Jay. But remember, you didn't start this fire. Jaden looked up. You didn't create injustice. You just stopped ignoring it. And when you stood up, others stood with you. But it doesn't mean you have to carry all of it alone. Jaden swallowed hard. I'm tired. Michael nodded. Then rest. But don't quit. The healing Jaden took 2 weeks off from public appearances. No interviews. No podcasts. No articles. He returned to the basics. Jogging in the mornings. Helping Carmen with groceries. Rewatching childhood movies. Drawing. Something he hadn't done in years. He sketched a small image one day. A boy standing in the middle of a storm, holding a match, shielding its tiny flame with both hands. Underneath it, he wrote, "Still burning." He posted it online with no caption. It was shared over 100,000 times in a week. That image, no words, just art, resonated more deeply than any speech he had ever given. It reminded people he was still just a kid, a kid who refused to be snuffed out. The letter months later. Jaden received a letter in the mail, handwritten, no return address. It read, Jaden, I was at the mall that day. I watched everything. I didn't step in. I should have. I was afraid. I'm sorry. Watching your journey has made me realize how often silence is the real crime. I don't know if I'll ever have the courage you did, but I want you to know. You changed me. Thank you, a stranger. Jaden read the letter twice. Then he folded it carefully and placed it in a shoebox with other pieces of his journey. Press badges, old speech drafts, a photo of his mom holding the birthday candle. And on top of it all, he placed the drawing of the boy in the storm. A final decision. That summer, Jaden received a scholarship offer from a prestigious university, one known for its political science and civil rights programs. He had also received an offer to intern with a congresswoman who had introduced a new bill on youth justice reform, a bill inspired in part by his story. He sat at the kitchen table with both letters in front of him. Michael sat across from him. What do you think? Jaden asked. I think, Michael said with a smile, that whichever path you choose, you're not walking it alone. Jaden looked at the letters again. He didn't need to choose between being a student or a change maker. He was both. Back to the beginning. Before leaving for college, Jaden returned to the mall. Same entrance, same hallway, same candle shop. This time, he walked in with confidence. The clerk smiled at him, a different one than before. He picked up the same kind of candle he had tried to buy for his mom all that time ago, lavender and sage. This time, there was no security guard watching him, just people, browsing, living. He paid in cash. As he left the store, he turned and looked back, not with anger, not with pain, just awareness. So much had changed, so had he. The mall hadn't changed much. The same food court, same teenage couples drifting through clothing stores, same scent of cinnamon and floor polish hanging in the air. But for Jaden, everything had changed. He stood at the entrance, where it had all begun. The fountain behind him, his reflection shimmering faintly in the water.
It had been almost a year since that day. The day a birthday gift led to a confrontation, which sparked a movement, which revealed a hidden strength he never knew he had. Now the mall had invited him to speak at the grand opening of a new community justice center built into the side wing, where the old security office once stood. It was a symbolic gesture, one that the board hoped would help restore trust between the public and private security in commercial spaces. Jaden knew it wouldn't fix everything, but symbols mattered. Sometimes, symbols changed the world. A familiar face. As he walked toward the event stage, set up near the new wing, Jaden paused. There, seated off to the side in a folding chair, was a man he hadn't seen since that day. Mr. Dalton, older, grayer, slightly hunched, no longer in uniform. No badge, no belt, just a man in a faded jacket, staring at his hands. Jaden's heart thudded once, then again. For a moment, the world blurred. He saw himself, 16 years old, standing with clenched fists, accused, surrounded, alone. Then he exhaled and walked toward him. Dalton looked up. Their eyes met. Jaden stopped a few feet away. Mr. Dalton. The man's mouth moved slightly, unsure whether to speak. He nodded. Jaden. There was an awkward silence. Then unexpectedly, Dalton stood. I heard you were speaking today, he said, voice rough. Jaden tilted his head. Didn't expect to see you here. Dalton looked down. I wanted to. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed to see for myself what you've become. Jaden studied the man's face. No arrogance, no excuses, just quiet remorse. I didn't become anything, Jaden said. I just stopped letting people define me. Dalton nodded slowly. I was wrong. You were, Jaden said, voice even. A longer pause. Then Jaden asked, have you ever apologized? To my mom, to the store manager, to the other kids you looked at the same way. Dalton shook his head. Maybe you should start, Jaden said. And then surprising even himself, he added, it's not too late to be better. Dalton's eyes glistened. He nodded. Jaden walked away. The speech, the crowd gathered. A mix of activists, students, journalists, city council members, and families from every corner of the city. Carmen sat in the front row, proudly clutching her son's old sketch of the boy holding a flame. Michael stood beside her, arms crossed, beaming with pride. Jaden stepped up to the podium. He looked out at the crowd, then glanced back toward the entrance of the mall. It's strange, he began, how a place can look exactly the same, but never feel the same again. Laughter, nods, he continued. A year ago I came here to buy a birthday gift for my mother. I didn't leave with a gift. I left with an experience that changed my life, not by choice, not by design, but because someone looked at me and saw a threat instead of a teenager. A hush fell over the audience, but that moment didn't break me. It woke me up. He paused. It taught me that dignity isn't given, it's taken back. That silence isn't neutral, it's dangerous. And that justice doesn't begin in courtrooms. It begins with how we see each other. Applause built. Jaden looked at his mom. This building behind me, it's just a structure. But what it represents, accountability, education, equity, that's something we can build together. Not just for me. For every kid who's ever been looked at the wrong way. For every parent who's ever feared the knock on the door. For every stranger who stays silent when they should have spoken. He looked at the crowd, eyes fierce, voice steady. We don't need saviors. We need allies. We need people who listen, people who act, people who care. Thunderous applause. And then softly, his last words, I came here to buy a gift. I left with a purpose, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Legacy in motion. In the weeks that followed, the community center opened its doors. Inside were programs for youth education, racial bias training for staff and security teams, and conflict resolution workshops led by both students and professionals. Jaden became a regular speaker at schools, not because he sought fame, but because he believed stories mattered, especially true ones. He worked closely with city officials to implement a mentorship program pairing young people with civic leaders. He didn't just want justice for what had happened. He wanted to stop it from happening again. The visit one afternoon, Jaden visited the news center and saw a group of middle schoolers drawing on tablets in an art therapy session. A young boy approached him, nervous but excited. "You're the guy from the video, right?" Jaden smiled. "Depends which video." The boy grinned. "The one where you stood up to that guard. You were like, brave." Jaden knelt to the boy's level. "You know what bravery really is?" The boy shook his head. Jaden tapped his chest. "It's being scared and still doing what's right anyway." The boy nodded, then showed him a drawing he had made. A small boy standing next to a tall man, both holding torches. Jaden's throat tightened. "That's you and your dad," the boy said, "lighting up the world." Jaden smiled. "I love it." Final reflection. Later that night, Jaden sat on the rooftop of his apartment building, watching the city lights flicker below. Carmen brought him a mug of cocoa and sat beside him. "You've changed the world, baby," she said. Jaden shook his head gently. "I just lit a match." Carmen smiled, and the forest caught fire. Jaden laughed. "That wasn't the plan." "No," she agreed, "but maybe it was the purpose." They sat in silence for a while, just the hum of life below them. Then Carmen added softly, "You made me proud long before any of this. But I hope you know, you're not just my son anymore. You're the city's hope. And that's a heavy thing to carry." Jaden nodded. "I won't carry it alone." He looked up at the stars, scattered, quiet, glowing. So many lights, so many stories, and his was just one of them. But it mattered, because he had taken injustice, pain, fear, and turned it into fire. Not to burn things down, but to light the way.